For centuries, Machu Picchu has been considered a royal city, a mysterious mountain settlement, and a crowning achievement of the Inca civilization. History books described it as a lost city, a place suddenly built and then mysteriously abandoned. But now, a new discovery in 2026 has cast doubt on this entire story. When scientists and researchers revisited the site with new technology, they discovered clues that suggest that Machu Picchu may not have been as we had previously been told. In 2026, scientists discovered a secret hidden beneath its stones for 500 years. Stay tuned until the end of this video, because the truth that is revealed may completely change your mind. Before continuing in the video, subscribe to the channel to be the first to see such videos. And before learning about the shocking discovery about Machu Picchu with data, let's learn a little about its discovery. Machu Picchu, which we today consider one of the world's most mysterious historical sites, was once completely hidden from the world. In 1911, Hiram Bingham, an American historian and explorer, was searching for ancient Inca paths in the Peruvian Andes. A local farmer and a young child told him about an ancient stone city perched high atop the mountains. When Bingham arrived, he saw an entire stone city nestled amidst dense jungle, lying virtually untouched for centuries. This was Machu Picchu, later known as the Lost City of the Incas. In fact, the locals knew about this place long ago, but it was completely unknown to the outside world. Machu Picchu is located approximately 2,430 meters above sea level and is believed to have been built around the 15th century, around 1450, during the reign of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. There are over 200 structures here, including houses, temples, terraced agricultural lands, and special canals for water flow. The most astonishing thing is that these massive stones were joined together without cement, so they still stand strong today. Machu Picchu wasn't an ancient city, but a significant center of the Inca civilization. From a common-sense perspective, the biggest question arises: why did the Incas build such a large city in such a dangerous and remote location? The hill on which Machu Picchu is built wasn't an easy place, surrounded by steep cliffs, plunging nearly 500 meters to the Urubamba River. And the surrounding land wasn't suitable for agriculture either. The slopes were so steep and rocky that large-scale agriculture seemed almost impossible. Therefore, the choice of this location seems a bit odd, especially for an empire known for its planning and logistics. As research progressed over time, the matter became more complicated. The temples built here were found to be aligned precisely with the changing path of the sun and the different phases of the moon. The walls were so precisely aligned that no gaps were visible between them. Everything pointed to a specific purpose, likely a religious or ceremonial significance. But despite all this, the real question remained: why was this site chosen? When Hiram Bingham brought this site to the world's attention, the story became more complicated. So he took many objects and artifacts from here with him to the United States, which later led to a long-standing dispute between Peru and Yale University. This discovery was presented as a discovery, when in fact the local people already knew about this place. However, the story told by outsiders gained more traction internationally. Geographically, this place was also unusual. Machu Picchu is nestled between two high hills, Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu. The entire city is built on a narrow ridge, formed by the flow of a river. The route to reach it was not easy, passing through dense jungle, fog, and steep cliffs. It was also not a major trade route, like the Inca capital, Cusco. The biggest challenge must have been transporting supplies. It would have been difficult for laborers to bring food, tools, and heavy stones there. The terraced fields could certainly have grown some crops, but not enough to sustain a large population for long periods of time. Transporting such heavy stones to the top without wheels or horses is astonishing. Simply put, establishing a city in a place like Machu Picchu was a huge risk. This area receives approximately 2,000 millimeters of rainfall each year. Such heavy rainfall means constant soil erosion, water pressure, and weakening of the ground. The mountain slopes are so steep that even the slightest mistake could be fatal. The paths were slippery, and there were deep ravines below. This meant that construction there was not only difficult, but also dangerous. Rainwater could damage the foundations, and even the strongest terraced fields could weaken over time. By common sense, this would have been the last place where a large city would be built. Excavations and research have also revealed some interesting facts. It seems unlikely that Machu Picchu was inhabited year-round. Most of the bones found here belong to ordinary laborers or service people, not families. This could mean that the site wasn't a permanent residential city. Its remote location and precarious position suggest that it was likely used for a specific purpose. The question now is, if it wasn't suitable for daily living or agriculture, why was it built at all? The Incas were considered highly intelligent in their work. They didn't waste effort and resources thoughtlessly. They could organize thousands of people to build roads in difficult terrain, and every decision had a solid reason behind it. From this perspective, Machu Picchu doesn't appear to be the result of a mistake. Rather, and it appears to have been deliberately chosen, perhaps for a purpose that is unexplainable to the naked eye. It's possible that its true story lies not just in the buildings visible above, but beneath the rocks that millions of tourists walk on every year. A major breakthrough in 2025. For nearly a century, experts sought to understand Machu Picchu by looking solely at its temples, walls, and stone structures. They believed the answer lay in what was visible above. But in 2005, the story took a new turn when geologists also joined the research. Brazilian scientist Rualdo Menegat's team approached the work from a different perspective. They didn't try to find out who built it, but rather focused on understanding what was happening inside the mountain. This time, the focus was below the surface. Whereas previously, you people had only been looking at the buildings, scientists began to understand the structure of the ground. Satellite images revealed hidden cracks. Special radar was used to peer underground. Some techniques also helped understand how cracks in the rocks affect the flow of water and energy. Even a modern scanning technique based on cosmic rays was used to peer inside the mountain. And each time, the same pattern emerged. Machu Picchu is built where two major geological systems meet. Together they form a kind of natural crossline. Today's engineers consider such places risky, but it seems the Incas saw them as an opportunity. These natural fissures allowed rainwater to easily find its way within the mountain. This is why the drainage system remains effective even today. Where heavy rains could have caused damage, these natural channels directed the water safely. What seemed like a threat became the city's strength. This influence is also evident in the construction method. Many of the stones were not imported, but were quarried from the surrounding rocks. The fissures made them easier to cut and shape. It seems the Incas, rather than fighting the mountain, adapted to it. Interestingly, many of Machu Picchu's most important and sacred buildings were also built along the same lines as the cracks in the ground. It seems as if these buildings follow an invisible map, one that existed only within the mountain. This seems no coincidence. This suggests that the Incas, in their construction, did not just consider the top, but also understood the mountain's internal structure. They were not trying to challenge nature, but were working in harmony with it. Since scientists believe that these cracks did not damage the city, but rather made it more stable. A solid rock can break directly during an earthquake, but where cracks already exist, the energy of the shock is dispersed. This reduces the pressure on the entire structure. It is possible that the Incas deliberately built in this location to protect the city from the effects of earthquakes. What seemed dangerous from the outside became a means of protection. This also changes our thinking about why Machu Picchu was chosen. Previously, it was believed that this location might have been chosen for trade or strategy. But now it seems that it was chosen with the natural contours of the land in mind. The Incas didn't shy away from risk, but instead understood it and used it to their advantage. And this same understanding is evident in water management. Heavy rainfall is common in the Andes, which can wreak havoc on any site. However, cracks in the ground created natural pathways for water. Stone channels didn't try to block water, but instead allowed it to flow in the right direction. This reduced soil erosion and preserved the structures for a long time. For the Incas, mountains were not just stones, but sacred entities. Therefore, places where different geological lines intersected may have held special significance for them. It's possible that Machu Picchu's location may have been linked to their spiritual perspective. The secret to precise stone cutting may also lie here. Natural cracks in the rocks made it easier to shape large stones, allowing them to be shaped precisely without sophisticated tools. In other words, nature provided both the foundation and the means for construction. From this perspective, Machu Picchu is not just a historical site, but an example of the intelligent balance between man and nature, where mountains, water, and stone all come together to create a city that stands strong even today. The land surrounding Machu Picchu wasn't just mountain. It was a ready-made resource in itself. The rocks here are mostly granite, which is considered very strong. Cutting granite is typically extremely difficult and requires a lot of labor and tools. But this situation was a little different. Due to natural fissures within the mountain, the stones already broke under pressure and broke into large pieces. This meant that the Incas didn't need to transport them from far away. They could use stones that were already available nearby. This is why the walls of Machu Picchu are so precisely built, with no gaps visible between them. Fitting the stones together without mortar isn't easy, but having stones already broken to the correct size makes the task much easier. It seems as if the mountain itself had already prepared half of the construction. This also increased the speed of construction. In an era without wheels or iron tools, bringing heavy stones from far away was difficult. But here, builders had to use what was available around them. The mountain wasn't just a place, but also a source of building material. Perhaps this is why this location was chosen. The Incas didn't choose any hill, but rather a place where natural fissures could help shape the stones. What was merely rocks to others was a ready-made resource to them. Machu Picchu is distinguished by its precise stonework. Stones fitted so closely that even a blade cannot penetrate between them. The secret to this was not just human labor, but also the help of nature. Water management was also part of this understanding. Clean water is difficult to find in high mountainous areas, but here there was a spring that flowed from within the mountain. Cracks in the rocks collected rainwater and helped it flow in the same direction. To harness this water, the Incas built a long canal that carried it to different parts of the city. This system made life possible even at such a high altitude. Water wasn't just for drinking. It also played a vital role in daily chores and religious activities. For them, springs weren't just natural sources, but were considered a sacred connection between heaven and earth. Thus, Machu Picchu became not just a place to live, but a site where nature and faith coexisted. New research reveals that Machu Picchu's water system wasn't just for providing water to people. Its function was much greater. In fact, it protected the entire city. When heavy rains fell on the mountains, the water could flow directly into the soil and destabilize the land. But here, the water was diverted into controlled channels, reducing erosion and preserving the land. This means that the springs weren't just a convenience, but also a place of protection. When travelers first saw Machu Picchu, so they didn't understand the true significance of its water system. Today, experts believe it was the most advanced water management system of its time. It didn't use any modern machinery. Everything was run by natural slopes, rock crevices, and stone paths. This is even more astonishing because it receives approximately 2,000 millimeters of rainfall annually. This much rainfall would be a threat to any mountain town. Yet, Machu Picchu has stood strong for hundreds of years, and this is largely due to its intelligent drainage system. Instead of blocking water, it was allowed to flow in the right direction. Layers of gravel and sand were created underground, allowing water to slowly drain downward instead of stagnating. Interestingly, a large portion of the city is built from a support and drainage network hidden underground. What we see above is actually just one part of the entire engineering. The terraced fields here weren't just for farming. They spread the water out and reduced runoff. Rainwater first passed through layers of soil and stone, then safely drained downward. This kept the ground strong and reduced the risk of landslides. If this system hadn't been in place, Machu Picchu might have crumbled over time. But the Incas didn't consider water an enemy. They used it to their advantage. The city's entire plan was based on the idea of working in balance with nature, rather than fighting it, a pattern hidden in the Andes. When scientists began mapping the cracks beneath Machu Picchu, they initially thought it might just be a coincidence. But gradually, they discovered that this same pattern appeared repeatedly throughout the Andes, from Cusco to Ollantaytambo. Many Inca cities and fortresses were built in places where natural fault lines and fissures existed underground. This meant this wasn't a mistaken or risky choice, but rather a carefully chosen location that already possessed certain advantages. Today, experts call this understanding a kind of traditional geology, knowledge learned through generations of observing nature. For centuries, the people of this region had observed mountains crumbling, waterfalls gushing out, and the land changing. This experience was passed on to the Incas, who used this knowledge in their construction. They understood the land as if reading a book. Building around these fissures offered numerous advantages. Water easily flowed through the rocks, creating waterfalls. Stone was readily available because the fissures made them easier to cut. Furthermore, the steep hills and natural slopes themselves served as protection, reducing the need for additional walls. Cusco, the capital of the Inca Empire, is a prime example. The city's location wasn't based solely on size or religious symbolism, but also on the land's structure. Several fault lines converge here, bringing water to the surrounding valleys. This ensured clean water for the city's inhabitants. This same approach is evident at Ollantaytambo. Terraced fields and paths were created where the ground was already broken. And this controlled water flow and facilitated cultivation. The surrounding natural formations also served as fortifications. Thus, it appears that the Incas did not seek to control nature, but rather lived in harmony with it. Even without wheels, iron tools, or heavy machinery, their empire grew rapidly because they allowed the land to work for itself. Where springs existed naturally, there was no need to dig wells. Where rocks were already fractured, cutting stone became easier. By combining anthropological and earth science, it becomes clear that different tribal societies learned to read nature in their own ways. Modern Western geology never directly reached the Incas, Yet they recognized patterns in ground cracks, water flow, and rock fractures. They lacked labs or microscopes, but they possessed patience and generations of experience. Each new generation added to previous experiences, where water collected, where soil eroded, and where stones fractured easily. This understanding later became the foundation of their cities. Their technology wasn't based on machines or metal tools, but rather on the art of observation. This knowledge was passed down through stories, traditions, and building styles. While today we rely on satellites to locate resources, the Incas chose the right location simply by observing the natural contours of the land. For them, technology meant studying nature. From a distance, the Andes Mountains appear to be simply a network of rocks and valleys. But for the Incas, they were a living map. Where there were crevices, there were water channels. Where there was elevation, there was protection. Valleys were useful for agriculture. Their cities weren't built haphazardly, but were deliberately placed in specific locations. For a long time, scholars believed that Inca cities were built solely for beauty, defense, or religious reasons. These assertions may be true, but now it appears that a deeper scientific understanding was also at work. The Incas didn't consider mountains a problem. Instead, they were their greatest support. The sacred science of the Inca people. For the Inca, mountains weren't just piles of stones. They saw them as a living force, an invisible guardian that watched over humans, rivers, and all of nature. In their belief, the earth wasn't just soil, but a mother figure who gave life to all. Therefore, when they farmed, built houses, or used water, it wasn't just a matter of fulfilling a need. For them, and it was a kind of relationship, a connection between humans and nature. This same thinking is evident throughout Machu Picchu. If a mountainous location provided water, stones, and even living facilities, it wasn't just considered a good location, but a good omen. The Inca didn't separate work and faith. For them, what was useful could also be sacred. Some research has even revealed that rituals were performed before construction began. Signs such as small stones, shells brought from faraway lands, or charred remains have been found beneath roofs and structures. This suggests that for them, construction was not just a technical task, but also a spiritual process. This thinking is reflected throughout their system. They took from nature and respected it. Perhaps this is why their agricultural terraces endured and water channels functioned effectively. They did not attempt to alter the mountain to their will, but rather lived in harmony with it. The location of Machu Picchu was not chosen without reason. It is situated among high peaks and coincides with the direction of the sun at certain times of the year. It seems they built the city in such a way that it was in balance with both the sky and the earth. The terraced fields at Machu Picchu weren't just for farming, and they served a larger purpose, protecting the soil from erosion. Furthermore, their design mirrored the natural contours of the surrounding mountains. The Incas believed that building after nature was a sign of respect. From the perspective of today's engineers, this approach proved crucial in stabilizing the land and controlling water flow. This suggests that their faith and practical wisdom were working hand in hand. Rivers and water weren't just resources for them. They considered water a gift of life. Therefore, pathways were carved into the stones to slow the flow of water, reduce the risk of flooding, and ensure consistent moisture flow to the fields. But this water also held spiritual significance for them. It held a special place in rituals. Recent studies have revealed that numerous hidden pathways were created underground for water, purifying and channeling it. This allowed for better use of the water reaching the fields. While it may seem like modern water management, it was rooted in their beliefs and understanding of nature. From this perspective, the uniqueness of Machu Picchu lies not just in its walls or structures. Its true strength lies in the balance where humans and mountains seem to work together. The question now arises, if Machu Picchu wasn't just a place to live, not just a religious site, and not just a marvel of engineering, then what was it really? This is where the story becomes more interesting. Today, many researchers believe that Machu Picchu may have been a kind of control center, not for military or trade purposes, but for harmony with nature. The Incas likely used it as a place to understand land, water, and weather. It wasn't just a city, but an experiment where humans learned how to live in harmony with nature. Imagine, building a city at such a height was no easy task. The weather there was variable, the rainfall was intense, and the land was unstable. Yet, they cultivated land, conserved water, and built structures that still stand today. This could mean they weren't just trying to survive, but rather trying to understand how the mountains work. Some experts believe that Machu Picchu may have served as a kind of learning zone. Here, in the terraces built at different elevations, farming methods were tested. Which crops thrive in which climates, which soils retain water, and how to cultivate slopes. But this place could have served as a source of knowledge for the rest of the Inca Empire. The location also offers a clue. Machu Picchu is located in a place where the relationship between sky and earth is clearly visible. The direction of the sun, the shadows cast by the mountains, and the cycles of the seasons are clearly visible here. This also raises the possibility that the site may have been associated with astronomical understanding, a center for understanding time and weather. But something more emerges. Machu Picchu perhaps symbolized the Incas' philosophy, that humans are not masters of nature, but part of it. They built the city in a way that blended with the mountain, not separated from it. Water was channeled rather than blocked. Natural cracks in the rocks were utilized rather than broken. Fields were sloped rather than laid flat. This could mean that Machu Picchu was not just a place, but an idea, a model that showed how humans and nature can coexist. And this is why today, even hundreds of years later, this place doesn't seem like just a part of history. It forces us to wonder whether ancient civilizations were ahead of us in understanding nature. Perhaps Machu Picchu is not a lost city, but a message, reminding us that true power lies not in controlling nature, but in balancing with it. If you enjoy these mysterious and insightful stories, subscribe to the channel now to be the first to see new videos about history, science, and hidden truths. Stay tuned, because each upcoming video could change your mind.